I'm Edwin Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I am honored today to interview Benjamin Williams, the founder of SDI Architecture. Welcome, Benjamin.
Good morning, Edward.
Can you tell us a little bit about your career and the decision to start SDI Architecture in 2018?
Sure. So I came to Boston to study architecture, and after graduating, I found some really nice firms I enjoyed working for, so I stayed in Boston. And over time, I worked for various number of firms, and most of them focus on the commercial industry in the Boston area. And during that time, too, I kept moving up in firms, learning more about the business of firms and working with clients. And about 2015, I started realizing that I was doing a lot of the work in the firm at the higher level, and I started really looking around going, do I want to open my own firm, or do I want to stay working for somebody else? And as I was thinking about it more, it became obvious that it was a good time for me to split off on my own. So in 2018 is when I made that real divide and separated from the firm I was working for and started working solely for myself. At that time, we also brought on our first employee. And as we developed and started growing, things were moving ahead in the right direction. So it became obvious it was the right choice to do. And as we developed, we really focused on the commercial industry in the Boston area, from office spaces to light industrial, data centers, and some biotech. And every once in a while, we would do some residential as well, but we weren't focusing too heavy on the residential. So as things were moving, and within a year of starting our first employee, Prasanna, she actually started talking to us about her home city of Hyderabad in India and how she always wanted to open a firm over there. And as we talked more and more about opportunities in Hyderabad and in India in general about what is going on in the design community and construction, it seemed like a good opportunity for us to expand over to India and open a design firm. And we really wanted to focus on that office to be a design firm, just like Boston. They weren't there to support Boston, but they were there in India to get projects and work on projects in India. So we started developing that office as well. And then middle of 2020, we brought on another principal in Hyderabad, Abhinav, and he's permanently based in Hyderabad, and Prasanna goes back and forth between Boston and Hyderabad. But in their focus has to do more with residential and residential communities. But we are starting to work more towards getting more commercial as well in there. As COVID hit and everybody had to go home, we actually found that a lot of technologies that we were developed to communicate between the two offices really worked well, even close by. So we were able to keep our connectivity with the whole firm, even though nobody was in the office. We've since brought some people back more on a volunteer basis. So people are in the office and out of the office according to a schedule that works for them and comfortability that they have with coming into the office. So, and the other thing we found with COVID is a lot of our commercial clients, a lot of the work started slowing down. We were, for us on the commercial side of it, but at the same time, residential was really quickly ramping up. So we found over this past year that our residential sector really picked up a lot, and we started building that sector a lot more. And we were maintaining our clientele from what we had before through this past year, but haven't had an opportunity to grow the commercial side because the commercial side is not moving as fast as residential right now.
So can you tell us you gave us a pretty comprehensive overview of where you've been over the last couple of years. Can you give us some sort of key milestones in terms of clients or any other sort of important milestones since launching your company?
So shortly after launching the company, one of our major clients is a data center, co-location data center Markley Group, which is headquartered in Boston. They hired us to start developing one of their sites in the suburbs of Boston in the Lowell area. And they have a building that's over 300,000 square feet of space that they wanted to renovate into co-location. So we had the opportunity to come on board with them and start to design the renovations to the old building, which was once a spaghetti factory. So there was some interesting things going on with the building, and a lot of things that worked really well for it to become a co-location data center. And so we're developing that. It's a multi-phase, multi-year project. As they say, they want this to be scalable, so that they do a minimum space now, and as they lease spaces, they keep growing into the rest of the building. So it was a really key client of ours, and been a key client of ours since we started. At a good milestone where it really gave us some great opportunities with renovation of a building on the inside and the out.
And how would you describe your company's philosophy?
We focus and really work hard to get the team to focus on creating unique designs that are catered towards our clientele. And really on the commercial end, we're looking at creating designs that work with, that are there to speak of the clients, of their company culture, how they do business, who the space is for. Is it for their employees, or is it for their prospective clients coming in? How does the work flow through the space? So really the intent is to work collaboratively with our clients so that at the end of the day, they have a space, and when they walk in, they know it's their office space or their whatever commercial space they're doing. It's theirs. It's not the same as somebody else. And it works properly for them. So everybody feels like it's laid out, and the flow through the space is what needs to be for them to do their work.
And so one of the new buzzwords is sort of de-densification. So what, in terms of the impact of COVID in design, where do you see COVID's impact in your design?
What we're seeing with COVID right now is everybody is really trying to keep separate. A lot of our clients, what they're doing at first shot is they're spacing people out, and instead of redoing their cubicles, they're leaving the cubicles the way they are and might be adding more screens to them, higher screens, whether it's plexiglass or something else, to divide it up. But they're also making sure that there's not people sitting next to each other. That's every other seat might be full. Conference rooms are being used as people's workspaces. So prior to COVID, it was, how many people can we fit into the space? And also, how many conference rooms do we need to keep the day-to-day business going? With a lot of the conference rooms being taken away because of the need for separation, there is going to be a new need for trying to create those larger spaces that allow for somebody to get away and sit away from everybody. And then also, how do we separate with the cubicles and make it so we have those greater distances from each other? But the other thing we've been talking with a lot of clients about is that as we progress through COVID, is them doing almost shift work, where they have one group come in one day and another group come in another day. So it's the conversations we've been having with people is, how much is that going to continue after COVID? Are people really enjoying the opportunity to be working from home part of the week and in the office part of the week? How does that look for the office? So the density of it, we do feel that, we're going to start giving people a little bit more elbow room in the space, but it's may not exaggerate to a lot of extra space, but it might be more that we're not accounting for everybody to be in the office at the same time.
And are you seeing the trend? It's not a real word, resurbanization. Are you seeing people moving back to the suburbs?
Yes, we've been hearing a lot more of people. It's almost in reverse of what they were doing before, where companies tend to follow the talent. So for years, people were moving their companies back into Boston because there's a lot of talent in Boston. With COVID and a lot of people that were living in Boston wanting to sort of escape the city and have a backyard. So a lot of talent has moved outside the city. And so we have heard, we're talking with landlords outside the city. We've heard that they're talking with more people about moving their offices out to 128, 495 area and moving away from Boston. We're going to be finding it interesting to see how that plays over the next year. How many people feel that that migration out of the city is going to be a consistent migration, or people are going to come back to the city once COVID's lifted. Our gut tells us it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of that. And so you're going to have some people that, they're going to, the suburbs are going to see a boom more in office space, while Boston still will see a little bit of downplay on it.
And can you sort of highlight some of your recent projects or upcoming projects?
So we can't name names at the moment, but some of the one of the biotech companies we work with, their biotech is really popular and growing right now. But with them, this office, they actually shifted half the office to another part of the country, which had a larger facility already. So the remaining people that are still needed in the Boston area, they've decided to give back space to the landlord, and because they're finding for them they don't need as much space, and part of that is, with COVID, when the company decided to figure out how they're going to work with things, they shift around spaces. They found it more advantageous to move part of the business to another facility that was already installed.
So in 2020, SDI Architecture opened an office in India. Can you tell us about the opening of that office and the role that Prasanna Lakara played in starting that?
When we opened up the office in Hyderabad, we really were focused on it becoming a design firm and not a production firm. And as I was talking with Prasanna about business opportunity of the firm opening up over there, what we would be able to do as projects, and what would be the opportunity of that office growing as a design firm itself and not being a production office for Boston. And as we were talking more, she started making us aware of all the residential projects that are going on, that go from villas, from people's houses to condos, penthouses, but not just those small scale, but also residential communities. And on top of that, there is a large commercial aspect for the Hyderabad region. There's a lot of pharmaceutical companies moving into that region. There's a lot of technology companies moving into that region as well. So as we opened the office in the summer of 2019, we started focusing on first getting working on residential, and as that's been growing, we have started talking to people about doing residential communities as large, from 10-acre communities all the way up to as large as 60-acre communities. As well as those, the office is continuing to grow in India, and as they grow, we also are having a conversation with a rice processing company that is on the outskirts of the city, that they need a new facility, and that the owner of that company is very well connected in the community, and he wants to see good things happening in the community. So another project that we're talking with them is creating a startup work incubator space for them that's there for the community, as people want to start a business, and also it's in the agricultural region. So it's not just with tech companies, it's also people in agriculture, as they need to build up their space. So the work in India it ranges from residential to commercial, and it gives our team over there a great opportunity to work on a few different types of projects. But we also make sure that at the same time the offices are not just satellite to each other, that they work together. So we do talk with each other regularly. We do critiques back and forth on all the projects. And we also are able to find a nice way to help each other out when need be. So if Boston needs some help for a day, we get some help for a day. If Hyderabad needs some help, we have somebody who can help with them. So it works out really well that we're really building the company as a together, not just as separate offices.
And so what are the growth plans for SDI Architecture over the next years?
So over the next year, so in the Boston market, we are going to continue to focus on getting our commercial side growing again and working with the local landlords on whether they're moving their tenants around or moving them into new spaces, or if they need to downsize or just renovate and make the space a little bit more spacious, make their office more spacious, as we were talking earlier. The other thing is our residential side is going really well. It's getting well established, so we will be continuing to grow that sector as well, and working on whether it's new houses, additions to houses, or multifamilies on that end. And then in Hyderabad, again, really what we're seeing over there is some manufacturing is growing over there, and then the residential side is continuing to really grow. Oh, and I have to say one thing, that one thing we're actually finding really nice working with people in Hyderabad is a lot of our clients in Hyderabad actually are international. We have one client that lives in Germany but owns property in Hyderabad. We have another one that lives in California. So when we're working with them, it's really working with people globally on the projects in Hyderabad.
So Benjamin, can you tell us about the difference in your practice of architecture in the United States, i.e. in Boston versus India?
That's a great question, and I should like to bring in Prasanna to also assist in answering that question.
Hello everyone, this is Prasanna Lachugari, co-founder SDI Hyderabad. As India being a developing country, we have a lot of buildings out of the ground, which is very different from Boston market. The Boston market has a lot of beautiful historical buildings. We renovate the inside of it and do minimal changes to the outside, whereas in Hyderabad, we construct buildings, design buildings out of the ground, and regardless of the sector, ranging from residential, commercial to industrial, it's a lot of building out of ground. And for us, it's a great opportunity to be in Hyderabad, have an office in Hyderabad, and a design team that is working towards these projects.
Yeah, and in the building types, what we're finding is a really common building type is if it's a smaller scale building, it's poured in place concrete with for structure, and then as they get to the larger buildings and requiring larger spans, they switch over to steel construction. So it's some similar construction methods and some slightly different, but they meld really well together. And able to have those conversations back and forth with our counterparts in India has really helped push everybody in their designs and their technical side, and really question why are we doing things a certain way on both sides, and try to come up with better solutions for our clients.
Also, with Boston being very historical, we tend to design to reflect the outside a little bit to the inside, but with Hyderabad, we tend to go more contemporary and new and modern with architecture and design.
So Benjamin and Prasanna, I'd like to thank you for joining us today at Citybiz. Your story is a fascinating story. We love seeing a combination of American and Indian companies working together, and we wish you the best of luck as you move forward in creating interesting architecture, not only in Boston, but throughout India. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edwin.